Judith, welcome to the Legacy Lounge. I am so happy to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, and especially joining our Legacy Ladies Lifestyle series.
Super excited about that.
Yeah, all of our clients are really intentional about setting their objectives for their health, whether that be mental, physically, emotionally, and your work encompasses all of those fields. I mean, full transparency. We've been working together for
almost a year.
We're about to hit our anniversary, and
it's coming in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
It really is. And during that time, you have changed my life. You have changed me and my mother's lives for the better in all the brackets that we just mentioned. So I'm excited to dive in a little deeper.
Yeah. So what would you like to know?
I would love to know, first, tell me about these companies, in particular Body's work and Women's work.
Yes.
And also how you pair with your husband, Adam, and what his specialty is.
Okay. So basically, Adam and I have been married for about 3 years now. And when we got engaged, we wanted to create something together. And he had already started his company, which was men's work. He's a therapist and he specializes with sex addicts. So while we were in a relationship, we were talking about what was missing out there. And what we discovered, and actually it's not a secret anymore, but the women who are the partners of the sex addicts didn't have the proper care. So I sought out to do something more. I was like, okay, what can I do with this? And also complement what he's doing. So I decided to get certified through APSATs to help those women navigate when their husbands are acting out.
And can you talk a little bit more about APSATs, this acronym, but what is the organization? And
it's a very long name, and that's why we call it APSATs, but it's the Association of Partners of Sex Addicts Trauma Specialists. That's what we would be.
Yes.
And they've been around not very long. It's something new. Like I said, betrayal trauma, it's not something you hear every day, but I'm hoping that it does come to light more.
And it's a niche service that is not addressed fully. And I think many women and men that are suffering aren't even aware of this niche and this specialty.
They don't. You have to really look for it. But the goal in APSATs is that they go everywhere and it's available for everyone. Because what they're discovering is that when someone is cheated on or there is a betrayal, there's actually trauma happening in the brain.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that trauma and how that impacts your approach to working with these clients. There's already a wall up just for self-preservation.
Yes.
So how do you break through that wall? How do you create a safe space for your clients?
Yes. Okay, that's a great question. So through APSATs, they have the MPTM model, which is basically a model that they give us so that we can address where these women are at any certain time. So let's just say someone calls me and they just discovered that her husband's been sleeping with prostitutes, for example.
Yeah.
Acting out, or even
probably a common
porn
scenario
addiction.
You've heard.
Yeah. Porn addiction. There's so many things that are destroying them. So my job, or how I've been trained, is I get to discover where they are. There's 3 different stages. One is safety and stabilization, which is, like you said, they're all over the place.
Right.
Confusion sets in. The brain doesn't know what to do with it. It's like the person that they loved, that was their partner, is now the person that's causing all this pain. So there's this dissonance in the brain, and it's trauma happening. So that I get to see where they're at, and depending on where they're at in their journey, I go from there. No case is the same. They're all different. So I can't really pinpoint other than what I have. Whereas like, okay, you're in stage 2, let's focus on that. You're in stage 3. And sometimes I don't even need to tell them that.
Right.
Because
it might not even be beneficial for them.
No, because here's the deal. You're in stage 1, safety and stabilization. And then I get you to stage 2, where you're like mourning what was, and I'm getting you to this new platform.
So what are those 3 stages that your clients are typically facing?
Okay. So we have stage 1. That's where I create safety and stabilization. Number 2 is the grieving and the mourning process that they go through after the trauma. And then the 3 is a reconnection with themselves and the world.
And how long does that process typically take from beginning to end? I know it's different.
Yeah, it is different. And that's the most asked question I get from every client.
Yeah.
And I tell you, it just depends.
Yeah.
It depends on how fast you want to go through the work, how willing you are to go through the pain, because sometimes it's just too much to bear and we have to pause and we have to go back, and we go back from one stage to the next, or we go up and we flip and flop until you have the tools that you need to stay reconnected.
Yeah. And it seems similar to the steps of grief, there is no linear, like,
exactly,
you start and you're fixed. It is a journey, throughout the whole process. So how does your work with bodies work? How does, that influence now both sides of the coin?
Yeah. So basically I've been doing health and fitness for, 2001. So that's like 23 years now. Oh my God, I just aged myself. And I've been fascinated by the human body, and I understand it and I love it. This is like my passion. And throughout that journey, I realized that there was something missing. Like, there is more than just the body, and it's like the mind. And I always had that innate like knowledge that there's more there. I just didn't quite connect
instinctually you have always felt it was all interconnected.
I just didn't know how to present it to the public. I didn't know how to bring it together into one big, here, this is it. It's not just your body. It's not just fitness. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Which means this has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
So there's where I made the connection.
Okay, great. So what do you think was that light bulb moment that you had or was it just
it was
layering over years and years?
The way I can describe the bulb is that the bulb was always there.
And
it slowly started getting brighter and brighter.
The dimmer switch.
Yeah, exactly. The dimming, it got brighter until I couldn't help but see it. And I was like, oh. And then the hard part for me was like, okay, how do I combine this together?
Yeah.
So then I got more training and I became a yoga teacher.
And tell us about all of your credentials, because I also know you have experience in chiropractics.
Yeah.
And so what are the credentials that you do have, both physically and mentally? I'm going to test you because I know you have so many incredible things you've accomplished.
Okay. So with bodies work, I'll just go straight to certified personal trainer.
Yep.
I'm also a rehab specialist. So I have worked with a chiropractor in the past to help people fix their bodies.
Yes.
Corrective exercise specialist. That's where we see postural deviations and
I'm like, I will sit
and we
up.
correct those. And those are just strictly physical. And then with women's work, I got certified with ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation. And I am an ACC, which is an accredited certified coach. Great. And then I'm also an accredited professional coach. So I think that's enough.
I would think it's interesting just because they are so interconnected. How do you decide with the client, what approach to take first?
Well, that's great question, because they are two different businesses.
Yes.
So Adam, like I said, he's a therapist, and sometimes his clients' partners need somebody. So that's someone that I would strictly just work the coaching aspect, the women's work, right? And then you'll have someone who wants to just lose weight.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the body's work. With women's work, it's exclusive to women's work. With body's work, you kind of get both.
Yeah.
Because I am who I am and I can't help it. I'm going to end up quizzing you and asking you deeper questions so that you can get in touch with yourself, whether I'm training you or coaching you. So technically, body's work is a combination of both.
Great. Yeah. And I will just say from firsthand experience, not asking you to psychoanalyze me, but truly, these bodies work clients are getting that base of knowledge, that experience of, mental dexterity from you when they are working out with you. I know, and there's so many people that probably come to you and say, I want to lose weight, but they don't realize what is even blocking them physically from doing that. How do you so skillfully do that even in our sessions? How are you approaching the situation to see what else is underneath here that might be stopping us from achieving our physical goals?
Lots of questions.
Yeah.
I'm always
curious.
I'm always asking questions because then that gives me the data that I need to see, okay, how else can I serve here? Is there something else? Like sometimes I'll have a client that comes and they're not feeling great. And I'm like, okay, cool, that's fine. But you're here, so that's a win. And what has you feeling the way? And then before they know it, there's never a workout that they regret, because then they're like, oh, I feel better. I leave them leaving better. I leave them feeling better. So
Yeah.
So it just happens innately. I guess it's because of the work I've been doing for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a big key to what you do, though, is consistency. Can you speak a little bit on that as well?
Yes.
Guilty as charged. I have not been to the gym in a week, but please tell us about why that's so important, that thing I should be doing, that I haven't done this past
Well,
week.
I believe we are creatures of habits.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do consistently becomes a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So if you work out every day, your body's going to request it. It's going to want it. You're not going to feel complete without it. So I think consistency is very important for the mental and the actual body. And what is magical is when you're consistent, you actually get results.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of people don't get. They don't understand. Like they'll come to me, it's like, I want to come 2 times a week and that's it. I'm like, okay, what are you doing the other days?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm just seeing you 2 times a week. I'm like, that's not. I'll let them know right away. It's like, hey, that's fine to start off with, and you might not have much success.
Yeah.
And what I've been able to do, I have this strategy, this program that I've created from a long, long time ago. It's 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. You have to move your body every single day. So if you take the weekends off, that's fine. Monday morning rolls around after a weekend, your body's telling you, move me, I need to be moved. So I want to create that habit within the psychology and the body so that when I'm no longer there, the client realizes, oh, I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to do yoga, whatever that may be. The body has to be moved.
Training the body to maintain movement. And that is the natural state. If you rest, you rust. And just continuous active movement. And I will highlight that when we started working over a year ago, you were so insistent on breaking up in the best way possible and breaking up the existing patterns that had existed, where I was sitting, I just hadn't had fitness in my life. And we immediately started, it was 5 days a week. It was consistent. And it got to the point where my body did crave that, not only physically for myself, but mentally. So what do you feel are the benefits, the mental benefits that come from that consistency of physical movement?
Okay, so I'm sure you've heard about meditation.
Yep.
And everybody has this conception that you have to sit and you have to be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if I told you that when you're working out, you're actually putting your body in a meditative state?
Yeah.
Therefore, it clears your mind and it gets you more centered.
Mm-hmm. And we've even talked about this.
Oh, yeah.
By physically being open in a space, you are naturally more inclined to be open emotionally.
Correct.
And so I know that has been my experience with you. By asking those questions, I feel both physically and emotionally ready to progress, because you create that safe space. And you are just an incredibly empathetic individual. I know everybody you work with says the same thing. Where do you think that natural sense of, what does this person need from me right now? How do I adjust the scenario to serve them? Where do you feel that natural empathetic skill set came from? Or was that developed over time?
I would say it's a combination of both. Mm-hmm. And I think it was developed, and it was something my mother passed down to me. I was very stuck up, I guess you would say, growing up. And my mom would point those things out to me, and I would resent her for
opinionated.
it. Oh, hell yeah, you know this. And she would point them out,
wouldn't be Judith,
and I didn't like it. And then from her, I got the sense that I needed to know who I was and who I wanted to be. That's the most important thing. Because we know, once you know who you are, okay, great. But what are you going to do with it?
Right.
Yeah. So at an early age, my mom was very empathetic. She would always do things for people. She was always there, always serving, whatever's needed. And I like to believe that I have carried that on as well. I love to help people, and when I can, I will. And that's one of my mottos. If I can, I will. If I can't, I'm sorry. I will tell you, because I also have boundaries.
Right.
And that's fair. So I would say it was developed since in my teenage years. I started reading books and more books about self-discovery and psychology and how the mind works. And it was very interesting at first, because I felt that it was heavy. Like having this knowledge at 13, I remember being super aware of myself, my surroundings. And then it got to, and this is what's really interesting, because I kind of let it go for a while. It was just too much to handle. So I kind of let it go, and I let life happen. And then life things like divorce and
Mm-hmm.
breakups, having kids, life issues, things that happen to
Yep.
all of us,
Mm-hmm.
started bringing it back out again.
Interesting.
And then that's when I was like, I was already training at that point, and I was like, okay, what else is there? I know there's more. There's a connection here. So I decided to put myself through yoga teacher training, and then I got double certified for that just because I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another certification, by the way.
Two
of them. Two of them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like I had nothing else to do with my life.
In plenty of time. Yeah.
No, so it was great. So having that awareness and kind of going inside and always putting myself in someone else's shoes kind of just gives me that connection. Now, I'm not always right, but I don't tell you. I always ask.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how I've been able to kind of get consent, if you would, to ask questions. So I don't tell, oh, this is what's wrong with you. No, I don't know. I have no clue. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
you probably don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
But when in my asking and inquiring, it creates me the data that I may need to help the person. And not only that, it probably gives them an aha. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So I think it's fascinating.
I find it incredibly fascinating. I also find it fascinating that this did come down from your mother. It just, it does remind me of the tie-ins that we have with Stavis Wealth. Everything we talk about is transferring not only value, but values. Mm-hmm. And that's such a key point to your work that it is, you're right though, that perception and that level of empathetic sensory skill it's heavy. Yeah. It can be heavy. How do you, this is just, I genuinely ask, I get to ask my friend all the things I always want to ask. How do you properly put yourself in a space to help others and keep your own oxygen mask on? How do you maintain your own physical, spiritual, and mental well-being so that you can serve others? Because otherwise you're up the river without a paddle.
That's a great question. And the way I've done that is by failing over and over again.
Well, I can attest to that. Cheers. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Failing over and over again because it's something that is innate and it just drives me. Mm-hmm. And in the past, it's driven me to the point where I'm on empty. Yeah. And that doesn't serve me and it doesn't serve anybody else. Yeah. So through trial and error, I've been able to say, okay, I know this is how much I can give. And when I know that's it, boundaries. I have boundaries. Like, okay, I'm not responding. I turn off the phone at 8:00. Yeah. I have my bath every night. I have my me time. Mm-hmm. I'll have a call with a friend, particularly my husband. We always check in at night. It's like, okay, how was your day? How did it go? What's the highlight? What was good? What was bad? And that allows me to figure out what I took on that day and then let it go. Yeah. So it's a clearing every night.
Yeah. No, that's really incredible. So, I mean, would that be your first line of advice to these women that, as you said, just feel empty? Like when you feel empty, what is the first step? When someone coming to you, what are the first steps that they would want to take? It's just to prioritize self.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's foreign for a lot of people. They don't know what that looks like. Yeah. And in this world, especially as mothers and women in particular, and that's why it's women's work. Yeah. Like we've been conditioned that we have to be a certain way. We have to be the caretakers. We have to do this.
So what is the first step when working with a new client?
Okay. Well, first they got to reach out. And that's hard for some people.
I would say that is hard.
It's very hard because you have to take a look at yourself and say, hey, I need help. And asking for help is hard.
And so potentially admitting you're a victim of trauma or,
whatever that may be.
Yep.
Yeah. So the first step is reach out, speak up, share your truth.
How could people get in touch?
Website. The website's the best way. Right. You fill out a contact form and I get it immediately. And then I'll call you or email you. We'll set up an intro call. Mm-hmm. That way we get to jive a little bit, see if we like each other because, not everybody fits it and not everybody's ready.
Right.
So I like to be fair. I want to have an introduction and we get to meet each other for a little bit. Kind of like I did with you. Remember?
Yeah, I do.
It was over the phone.
I do.
And I was like, okay, what are your goals? This is what it looks like. Why don't you guys come to the gym? I come to you. I think I went to your house.
Yeah, the very first time.
And you see, that was completely different than anyone else. It was specific for you and your mom. Mm-hmm. So that's one way. And there's so many other ways. It depends on where the client is. But the first thing is you got to reach out.
Yep.
just like you guys did.
Mm-hmm. What are the typical type of clients that you work with?
I work in the bodies work. I have both male and female, and they both do phenomenally. And with women's work, because my husband works with the men, I only work with the women.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel we get to play with both. He can work with them and I work with the women.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, that's incredible. I want to dive in just because there are so many parallels. I know that you work with so many incredibly accomplished, strong women. What do you feel? What are the thematic patterns that you see, and what would you say to people that are interested in this type of work?
You know what? I never really took note of where they were successfully. Like
Yeah,
the people that I
that makes
like,
sense.
I never like that was never something that I look at. But now that you bring it up, yeah, there is a parallel there. And I guess what I would get out of that is that people who are successful realize that they need help, and they actually ask for it when they need it. Like if I think back on the clients that I've had who've been with me, I have a couple that have been with me for over a decade at this point, and they are successful at what they do. And it's consistency. And they realize that they want accountability. And sometimes it's just that accountability. I need Judith to give me a sticker in my forehead type of deal, and that's it.
And I am case and point.
I used to give stickers.
Yeah, I would like stickers. I'm a little upset I don't have a forehead sticker. But successful people know what they know and they know what they don't know. Exactly. And if it makes sense to outsource this portion of my life, that's what we've done. And I've been so grateful that I can say, listen, that's taken care of. I'm going to show up. Judith is going to tell me what to do. She's going to naturally understand what state I'm in and adjust that. So I'm going to get what I need. But I know during a busy day, like I have to put that to the side a little bit. I can't think about that. So you providing a safe space for people, and an accountable space is so important.
Yeah. And you just kind of answered your question right there. You know, you're a successful person knows that they cannot do it all and they outsource what they can. I happen to be one of those people they outsource to.
Yeah. So how does your program work?
I tell everybody 5 days a week.
Okay.
And first response is like, no, that's never going to happen. And how is that even possible? How can you work out every day? These are the doubts.
Yeah.
You can't work your muscles every day. And my answer to that is when you split the body parts accordingly, depending on the schedule of the week, in my program, you'll probably work any body part twice, at the most a week. So therefore it's a full body effort and we have 5 days to do that. So it's not fast. It's not like I have to go and sweat a lot. It's again, the sum of all the little things every single day will add up and get you the results you want at the end.
And I think that's the biggest misconception that I had in my fitness journey. And we've talked about this. I've been anywhere, from small to big. And I think a lot of women probably feel this way, especially for people that are, type A and want to achieve things. I was just throwing my body into the ground over and over. And it was either on the wagon or off the wagon. And I was either, pummeling my body to the ground or I wasn't doing anything. But the approach that you have taken, which is manageable and is sustainable and is consistent, is really what is needed for long-term success. And I'd say that's a life thing. It's a race. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon, And so that's why I think your work is really effective and leads to the long-term success. So what is the best advice you've ever gotten?
Best advice. Consistency works.
Great. What is the worst advice you've ever gotten?
That workouts are cookie cutters and everybody gets to get trained the same way.
Got it. So what are these books on the table?
Oh, these are a couple of books that I just wanted to share. They kind of tie in with what I do, both with women's work and bodies work. When I discovered that, here's another thing that I haven't mentioned yet, but whenever there's trauma, your body remembers. And this book right here, it's called The Body Keeps the Score. And it talks about it. So if you're going through any trauma, if anybody out there is going through trauma and they can't seem to get the weight off or there's something, there's probably more blocks in there. So this was a great one.
Fantastic.
The Untethered Soul was something, when you first start working out with me or you start with women's work and you're into self-discovery, the first person I ask, the first question I ask is, who are you? Mm-hmm. And most of us don't know what that answer is. I mean, it's
I'd be like, who, me? What?
Yeah. Who are you? And then the second question is, what do you want? You'd be surprised how many people can't answer that question either. And I think it boils down to you not knowing who you are and how the psychology works. And this book talks about that. Mm-hmm. I thought it was an easy read. And I've had people tell me that it's a hard read. So it's very mental. So, I would grab it, read it for a little bit. And if you need to put it down, just like I did.
Not a beach day book.
No, it's deep. Yeah. It talks about the roommate inside you, which is technically you.
Tell me a little bit about the roommate, because you've discussed that in our sessions. See? Yeah. And tell us a little bit about that roommate. I thought that was a really intriguing idea.
Yeah. So Michael Singer has this book, The Untethered Soul, and he speaks of is that we have this voice inside, and we all do. It's our inner voice. It's, the good and evil, whatever you may call it. And it's always there. The problem is that we create an enemy from the voice, meaning that the voice is always judging. It's sabotaging. It's making us feel less. And we're believing what the voice says. So what he invites you to do is, what would it look like if you became best friends with your roommate, the roommate that's never going to leave, who's just there. So when you have that understanding and you make peace with that inner voice, then you can change the narrative that voice has.
Because ultimately the voice is there because they want to help.
Right?
She wants to help.
She
just has some very insistent messages for me.
Exactly.
But that is an incredible thought and idea that you talked about, something that could potentially represent an inner saboteur. What if you made friends with that
what would that
force
look like?
helped you become your best self? Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I can't wait to dive into that one. And what's this third book here?
This was Louise Hay. This is just a dictionary. Like if you were experiencing any physical ailments, she believes that it comes from the body. The body is always talking to you. So it's literally in alphabetical order. And let's just say you have a migraine. You go here under migraine, and then she'll tell you, hey, you're resisting this or you're resisting that. Yeah. And this is the story you're telling yourself. And because of this, how do you change it? And they have like affirmations in here for it too. So it's something cute and simple. I keep it with me mostly.
Incredible. Well, thank you. We are going to add these to our Save Us Wealth library. We're going to share them with our viewers. Judith, thank you for being here. We are just so grateful to have your presence in Legacy Lounge. I mean, you just have such a wealth of knowledge in all of these spheres. You have been so impactful in me and Deborah's life. You have changed the trajectory of how I move forward in this world. And I feel more confident and proud after having worked with you. I'm really excited to share you with our audience. I know that there's a lot of incredible, strong women out there, but they need a strong, incredible woman like you in order to help them realize that. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being a part of our lives.
It's my honor. Thank you.
My honor as well. All right. See you at the gym.
See you at the gym.